The story begins with the female lead anxiously checking her watch as she stands in front of a building. She's about to meet someone, the person she wants to bring some light back to. Years ago, she and Uichi sat together in front of Yotsuha's pet's grave. Seeing her cry, Uichi made a promise. He would become a veterinarian, so she would never have to grieve over a lost pet again. When she looked at him, confused, he smiled and explained that he wanted to help animals, their furry friends. Hearing that, Yotsuha smiled brightly and hugged him. Over time, Uichi treasured every moment they spent together, from playing to competing for top test scores. Even Yotsuha's parents were impressed by him. But one day, she dropped a bombshell. She was transferring to another school. He saw her off at the train station, forcing a smile as she disappeared into the distance. As he waved goodbye, he couldn't help wondering about his feelings for her and wishing her nothing but happiness. Years later, Uichi slumps in his chair, absent-mindedly tugging at a worn book page, lost in distant memories. A classmate yells at him for ignoring his cleaning duties, but he barely reacts. The classmate shouts again, telling him to wipe the whiteboard. Startled, Uichi jumps up, stammering apologies. The other students scold him for provoking the bully again. When he looks down, his desk is covered with cruel messages. During break time, he walks down the hallway quietly reciting motivational lines from his notes, trying to stay positive, but the mocking laughter of the bullies behind him chips away at his resolve, pushing him deeper into isolation. Opening his school cubby, his heart sinks. It's filled with trash. Even so, he forces himself to see progress, reminding himself that things are still better than middle school. Holding on to his dream of becoming a veterinarian, he pushes forward. On the train ride home, he finally feels a little relief. He looks at his latest test results, his best scores yet. Then his mother messages him, asking him to buy dinner for the family. He quickly does it, but fear lingers in his heart. His mother's temper is unpredictable. When he arrives home, his sister greets him, but the house is overflowing with trash. His anxiety spikes. His mother, with messy hair and tired eyes, sits at the table glued to her phone. During dinner, Uichi eats quickly, hoping to finish and study math. But before he can, his mother suddenly asks why he looks so frustrated. Without waiting for an answer, she snaps, accusing him of wondering why she didn't make dinner herself. Overwhelmed, Uichi tries to explain, but she won't listen. She keeps scolding him, convinced he's blaming her. Suddenly, she slams her hands on the table and stands up, her hair falling over her face as she yells. She rants about her endless responsibilities. Hospital visits, multiple medications, part-time work, and being reprimanded by Yamamoto-san and Nozaki-san. Then she turns back to him, shouting that he has no right to judge her when all he has to do is go to school. In anger, she throws the dishes aside, shouting that he's ruined her appetite. Stunned and terrified, Uichi apologizes again and again, even blaming himself for upsetting her. Tears fill his eyes, but he holds them back. In his room, he shuts the door and sinks to the floor, burying his face in his hands. Exhausted, he grips his head, trying to calm down. After a few deep breaths, he forces himself to stand. Determined to study, he switches on the light. His eyes fall on childhood photos. Among them, a smiling picture of Yotsuha. A wave of sadness washes over him as he remembers how happy he used to be. He tries to focus on math, but his mind keeps drifting. To the bullies, to his mother's rage. Still, a small smile appears as he thinks of Yotsuha's innocent face and their promise to enter Hokushin National University together and become veterinarians. Just thinking of her gives him strength. No matter how painful life is, no matter how much others hurt him, even if the world itself wants him gone, he decides to stay alive, if not for himself, then for her. But as the pressure builds, he starts to doubt everything. He blames himself for everything wrong in his life. His thoughts twist darker. Was Yotsuha really his reason to live? Or just an excuse? In his mind, he sees her again, but not the kind, gentle friend he remembers. Instead, she appears cold and disappointed, repeating the cruel words that haunt him every day. She scolds him, tells him to give up, to disappear. The vision is so real that Uichi covers his ears, begging her to stop. But the darkness doesn't fade. His hands tremble as he puts his pen down. In that crushing moment, convinced that even Yotsuha wants him gone, he makes a terrible decision. At the same time, something unbelievable happens. Yotsuha, smiling with her familiar childish charm and a slight blush, suddenly pulls open his curtain and greets him. Lost in thought, Uichi stares in shock. When he recognizes her, he's frozen in disbelief. Seeing his expression, Yotsuha sighs in irritation and reminds him about the letter she sent earlier, saying she'd see him soon. Excitedly, she tells him she's transferred back to his school. Still confused, Uichi moves closer to the window and realizes she's standing outside on the second-floor ledge. Stunned, he stares at her, unable to process it. Beaming with joy, Yotsuha laughs and says she just wanted to see him as soon as possible. She points toward the building next door and proudly explains that she jumped straight to his window because it was the fastest way to get to him. Hearing Yotsuha's reckless explanation, Uichi quickly grabs her in concern and pulls her inside, wrapping his arms around her protectively. Feeling his warmth after so many years, Yotsuha blushes, her heart swelling with happiness. But just as suddenly he lets go, leaving her confused. In his mind, the image of her cold, scolding face still lingers, the one that urged him to die in his darkest thoughts. On top of that, he doesn't remember the letter she mentioned. Anxiety and depression twist reality around him again. Before he can say anything, Yotsuha cheerfully offers him a pack of chips as a housewarming gift. When he looks at her in confusion, she laughs and explains that they might be a little crushed because she accidentally pressed them between her ankle and the wall while jumping, but insists they still taste just as good. Trying to open the pack, she struggles but keeps smiling. Not wanting to make a mess in his room, she sits down and continues her efforts. Seeing her struggle so much, Uichi, still half in disbelief, takes the bag from her and opens it effortlessly. Yotsuha beams with excitement, thanking him for being so clever. As she takes a chip and eats it, she thanks him again for making sure none went to waste. Then she invites him to have one too. As Uichi takes a bite, his mind starts to drift again. Yotsuha, holding 2 chips in her mouth like a duck, calls for his attention. When he looks at her, the sight makes him smile for the first time. Exactly what she wanted. Suddenly, she rushes to his desk, her excitement overflowing as she grabs his veterinary medicine book. Her eyes shine as she flips through the pages. Uichi, still confused, watches her closely. Then, without warning, she runs to him and hugs him tightly. She confesses her love for him, admiring how he has never given up on his dream of becoming a veterinarian, even after all these years. Realizing the depth of her feelings and how he had lost sight of his own dreams, he gently takes her hand. He admires her kindness, cuteness, and loving nature. Resting his hand softly on her cheek, he feels her warmth. When she confesses her love again, her words touch something deep inside him. Overcome with emotion, tears fill his eyes. He hugs her again, this time even more tightly. Gratitude floods his heart. He's thankful he didn't give up on life. Understanding his pain, Yotsuha gently pats his head, comforting him like a child. She promises that everything will be all right. After some time, Uichi apologizes, saying he feels sleepy. Smiling, she agrees to head home. As they walk through the living room, Yotsuha suddenly stops to apologize to his mother for interrupting her, leaving the woman completely baffled. Uichi helps her with her shoes while his sister appears, looking shocked. Yotsuha warmly greets her, and then greets their father, who has just returned home. The whole family stares at her, confused by her sudden cheerful visit. But Yotsuha just beams brightly, waves at everyone, and says she hopes to see them again soon. As she turns to leave, her warm expression suddenly turns cold. She addresses everyone, his family, the bullies, even Uichi's killer, blaming them for pushing him to the edge. Uichi walks beside her, unsure what she means. When she looks back at him, her expression softens again. Smiling sweetly, she vows to fight the dark fate that haunts him. She thanks him for walking her home and says she looks forward to seeing him again, soon. Back in his room, Uichi lies on his bed, unsure how to feel, happy or afraid. At school, people had once seemed kind to him, but behind his back they mocked him, called him awkward, and avoided sitting with him. Now the thought that Yotsuha might also become one of those cold, cruel people terrifies him. Clutching his blanket, he sinks into despair. His eyes fill with tears as his thoughts spiral. Finally, exhausted and overwhelmed, he falls asleep still crying. Around 4 a.m., Uichi wakes up to see Yotsuha's blushing face right above him, smiling brightly. Startled, he realizes she's in his room again. She laughs and admits that she snuck in through the window once more. Still confused, he's shocked to find her sitting on top of him. Playfully, she leans closer and whispers that she just wants to be with him. Embarrassed, she quickly moves aside, worried she might be too heavy. Now lying beside him, her face red, she places her hand on him and happily says how glad she is to see him again this morning. Uichi stares at her, dazed, but when he notices her uniform, realization hits him. She's joining his school. Yotsuha grabs his hand eagerly, suggesting they go to school together. She's thrilled at the thought of spending the whole day with him. As Uichi gets ready to change, she shyly steps outside, blushing. When he comes out in his uniform, she looks at him with teary eyes, her face red as she admires how cool he looks. Before he can say anything, she hugs him tightly, overflowing with love. Though he's still wary of her sudden change, he blushes and decides to cherish the moment, afraid she might soon return to that colder self. But just as he begins to relax, his mother appears at the top of the stairs, her hair messy and wild like a ghost. She's hiding something in her hand. When she sees Yotsuha, She scolds her for visiting every day and orders her to leave, saying she needs to talk to her son privately. Before Yotsuha can respond, she's shoved away. But instead of getting angry, she simply smiles, grabs Uichi's bag, and says cheerfully that she'll see him soon. As she steps out of the house, her sweet expression fades. Her eyes harden with determination. She won't let his mother hurt him again. Noticing the kitchen door slightly open, she walks toward it cautiously. The sight inside is disturbing. Piles of trash and garbage everywhere. Yotsuha enters quietly, lighting a piece of paper on the stove and watching it burn. Meanwhile, Uichi's mother continues shouting at him upstairs until the sudden fire alarm cuts through the noise. Without hesitation, Uichi runs toward the kitchen. As he leaves, his mother, who had been secretly gripping a knife, suddenly slashes her own hand. Blood splatters from the wound, but instead of reacting in pain, she screams, accusing Uichi of being responsible. She cries out that if he had only listened to her instead of running away, none of this would have happened. Upon arriving in the kitchen and seeing only the alarm blaring with no fire, Uichi stands there, confused. Just then Yotsuha peeks in, her expression innocent yet concerned, and sweetly asks about the alarm. Still puzzled, he hesitantly dismisses it as a malfunction, letting out a small sigh of relief. Suddenly Yotsuha brightens up. Holding out his bag and shoes, she playfully insists she took them by accident, though it's obvious she did it on purpose. While Uichi remains bewildered and uneasy, she gently places his shoes down and cheerfully suggests they head to school together. Meanwhile, in his room, Uichi's mother, still clutching the blood-covered knife in her wounded hand, stands trembling and disturbed. She's determined to show him her pain, believing this would stop him from abandoning her. But as she approaches the table, her eyes fall on a burnt piece of paper, a family photograph half turned to ash. Only Uichi remains clearly visible, smiling happily, while she and her daughter fade away into ashes. The sight shakes her to the core. Overwhelmed, she staggers backward and collapses to the floor. On their way to school, Yotsuha remains cheerful, playfully moving around, while Uichi, still uneasy, clutches his motivational card. Noticing her curiosity, he awkwardly admits that reading it every morning is his habit. She immediately smiles and apologizes playfully. Before he can even glance at his motivational quote, Yotsuha suddenly hugs him, expressing her joy over his decision to become an animal doctor. Then, with a teasing grin, she says he's only doing it to make her happy, and tells him he's free to choose another path. But when Uichi firmly states that he truly wants to be a veterinarian, she blushes and hugs him again, delighted. She shows him a picture of her cute dog, gushing about how playful it is. Walking beside her, Uichi feels his heart lighten. As they reach the train station, however, his anxiety creeps back in. He grips his bag straps tightly, dreading a run-in with his old bullies. The moment Yotsuha notices them, her cheerful face shifts. Her expression turns cold and dangerously sharp. When they step onto the train, Uichi freezes in fear. Three familiar figures stand nearby, his former bullies from middle school. His hands tremble as he tries to make himself smaller, avoiding eye contact and praying they won't notice him. He tells himself they've probably moved on, that he's nothing to them now. But then, the leader of the group spots Yotsuha. Grinning, he nudges his friends, and they start mocking Uichi for his taste in girls. Already shaking, Uichi hides behind other passengers as memories flood back. Times they forced him to eat disgusting things, mocked him endlessly, and even tied a cloth around his neck, claiming his existence disgusted them. Just remembering it makes his stomach twist. He feels like he might throw up. Noticing his fear, Yotsuha glances at him softly, her eyes filled with something deeper than concern. When the gang spots Uichi, they smirk and move closer, ready to torment him again. But just before they reach him, they suddenly stop in shock. Blushing deeply, Yotsuha wraps her arms around Uichi, surprising everyone, including him. His mind goes blank, unable to process what just happened. Looking up at him, still flustered, she slips her hands inside his jacket. The bullies stare in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they're seeing. Before they can react, she takes it further, inviting him to do the same. Uichi hesitates, confused, but eventually follows her lead. As he places his hands inside, a soothing warmth spreads through him. Without realizing it, he relaxes and gently hugs her back. The gang remains frozen, unable to understand what they just witnessed. Finally, the leader snaps, shouting at Uichi to stop showing off with that ridiculous behavior. Before anything else happens, Yotsuha senses Uichi's discomfort. Seeing the next stop approaching, she cheerfully suggests they get off. Without hesitation, she grabs his hand, and they quickly exit the train, leaving the stunned gang behind. As the bullies recover from shock, they follow after them. The leader smirks, pulling out his phone, holding a humiliating video of Uichi from the past. He moves closer, eager to show it to Yotsuha. Still holding her hand, Uichi walks quickly, unaware of the threat behind him. Just as the gang closes in, Yotsuha casually tosses a 100% free food pamphlet from her bag onto their path. Two of the leader's friends instantly stop to check it, momentarily distracted, but the leader keeps going. Approaching the fifth gate entrance, Yotsuha receives a message from a friend mentioning loud noises nearby. Thinking fast, she pulls a newly bought textbook from her bag, but instead of opening it, she drops a small teddy bear toy. Acting surprised, she picks it up excitedly and shows it to Uichi, stopping right in front of the gate. He looks at her, confused, not understanding her intention. Without a word, Yotsuha crouches down and places the tiny teddy truck just a few centimeters from the train tracks. At that moment, the gang leader storms toward them, shouting in frustration. His loud voice makes Uichi shiver, but Yotsuha remains calm, her expression ice cold. As the leader nears, he mocks Uichi again, taunting him for avoiding them for so long. Yotsuha silently observes. The leader doesn't notice. He's now standing just a few centimeters from the toy. As he yells at Uichi, trembling, Uichi suddenly hugs Yotsuha tightly, his voice shaking as he pleads with the bully not to harm her, insisting she has nothing to do with any of this. The leader, now even more irritated, scolds Uichi loudly and hurls insults at him. While he's distracted, Yotsuha discreetly glances toward her friend waiting nearby and gives her a small signal to alert the station staff. Without hesitation, her friend sprints off to do so. Meanwhile, the bully continues to berate Uichi, but Yotsuha, calmly sticking to her plan, smirks and teases him, mocking him for being jealous of Uichi. Her words strike a nerve and his frustration grows, but she doesn't stop smiling. She praises Uichi's kindness, his talent, and even his cuteness, saying those must be the reasons for the bully's jealousy. Panicking, Uichi grips her shoulders, his face tense with fear, desperately trying to make her stop, but it's too late. Her playful remarks push the bully over the edge. Enraged, he shouts that he's not jealous and in a burst of fury lunges at Uichi, his phone still in his hand ready to strike. At that exact moment, his foot lands directly on the teddy bear toy Yotsuha had placed earlier. Losing his balance, he stumbles backward and falls straight onto the train tracks. His phone slips from his grasp, landing beside him. Right then, the station speakers announce the train's arrival, urging passengers to step back. As the train speeds toward the platform, panic spreads through the station. Even the driver looks alarmed. Just then, Yotsuha's friend returns with the station staff, urgently pointing toward the fallen bully. A staff member shouts for him to move toward the platform. In sheer terror, the bully scrambles along the tracks, crawling as fast as he can. Just as he pulls himself away, the train rushes past, missing him by inches. Though he survives, he's left gasping for air, his face pale with shock. Meanwhile, his phone, still lying on the tracks, is crushed under the train's wheels. A crowd quickly gathers, including his two lackeys, who arrive in confusion, demanding to know what happened. Yotsuha seizes the moment, dramatically clinging to Ichi's coat, pretending to be terrified. With wide, innocent eyes, she insists she has no idea how any of this happened. The station announcement informs everyone that the train will be delayed for a track inspection. The inspector moves toward the tracks as murmurs of fear and curiosity spread among the onlookers. Uichi, still confused and shaken, struggles to process everything. Yotsuha stands quietly behind him, appearing nervous, but in truth, she's perfectly calm. Meanwhile, the bully's two friends anxiously watch as Kazuya Ito, still trembling, slowly climbs up from the tracks. His face is pale, his breathing uneven, and his eyes are wet with tears. His friends rush to his side, but he barely notices them. The near-death experience replays in his mind, all those times he'd told Uichi to die, all the cruelty he'd shown. Now, after coming so close to death himself, a crushing fear grips him. Uichi watches in silence. For so long, this guy had terrified him. But now, seeing him so broken and afraid, Uichi can't help but feel sorry for him. Then Kazuya's eyes widen. In the crowd, he spots a masked woman, Okitan, a well-known streamer, live streaming the entire scene. Her camera is focused on his tear-streaked face. With a playful, mocking tone, she tells her viewers how this jealous guy tried to attack a couple but ended up tripping onto the tracks himself. She laughs, making the situation even more humiliating for him. Ironically, her stream was supposed to be about something else that she had received a mysterious message that morning, sent by none other than Yotsuha. The message tipped her off, telling her to be at the station to catch something interesting. As the scene unfolds, Okitan keeps streaming. Kazuya notices the camera, and rage fills his face. He lunges forward, grabbing her collar and demanding she stop recording, but it's too late. The live stream is already broadcasting his meltdown to thousands of viewers. His friends panic, frantically trying to pull him back and calm him down. Meanwhile, Yotsuha, completely unfazed, cheerfully takes Uichi's hand and leads him out of the station. As they step onto the escalator, Uichi trembles slightly, but feels something different this time. For the first time ever, he isn't afraid. He clenches his fist, silently telling himself to stay strong. Seeing him take this step forward, Yotsuha's face lights up with joy. Her heart races as she watches him walk with newfound confidence. Back at the station, the chaos continues. The live stream shows the staff restraining Kazuya as he lashes out at Okitan. Viewers flood the chat with outrage, scolding him, mocking his behavior, and even identifying his friends to direct their anger toward them too. On the way back to school, Uichi's thoughts drift to the past. He remembers how Kazuya was the reason he was bullied relentlessly, not just in middle school, but even after transferring to high school. What always confused him was how people who didn't even know him started hating him immediately. From the first day, his desk was vandalized with cruel messages, words filled with hatred and despair. Everyone treated him with disdain, throwing insults that crushed his spirit and deepened his loneliness. His thoughts are interrupted by Yotsuha's cheerful voice. Excitedly, she points to a patch of clovers growing nearby. With a bright smile, she picks one up, plucks a petal, and gently ties it around his finger like a ring. Her face flushes with happiness as she playfully says that, just like this clover, she'll bring joy into his life. Uichi stares at the petal, unsure how to react, still processing her words. Yotsuha twirls happily and declares with confidence that she'll erase all his bad memories and fill his life with happiness. But as Uichi repeats her words softly, she freezes for a moment, realizing she might have revealed too much. Quickly, she hides her clover-shaped watch and forces a cheerful smile, insisting she was only talking about bringing fun into his life, and maybe about getting good grades too. When they finally arrive at school, Uichi's nervousness returns. Yotsuha heads to the office to complete her transfer paperwork, leaving him alone. Struggling to move, drained of energy, he barely manages to reach his locker. As expected, it's filled with garbage again. His heart sinks even lower. With great difficulty, he makes his way toward his classroom. A group of students notice him and burst into laughter, mocking him. They ask about his ruined books, which, to his horror, he finds floating in the restroom sink. Kneeling down, he quietly picks them up as their laughter echoes around him. With a heavy heart and a blank, sorrowful face, Uichi finally reaches his classroom and sits down, lost in silence. As Uichi opens his locker, the petal ring Yotsuha had tied around his finger that morning tears apart. The delicate petal drifts down and lands on his desk. His heart tightens painfully as he remembers how she had smiled and told him it would bring happiness. When the school bell rings, the entire class goes silent in shock. Yotsuha walks in with a bright smile, cheerfully greeting everyone in a lively voice. The room fills with whispers as everyone turns to look at her, surprised by her confident and warm presence. Following the teacher's cue, the class settles down. Yotsuha introduces herself, and admiration quickly spreads through the room. Her charm, beauty, and kindness make it clear she'll fit in easily. Meanwhile, Uichi sits quietly at his desk, still trapped in gloom. Then, out of nowhere, Yotsuha waves at him excitedly from across the room. The class murmurs in confusion. Before anyone can react, she dashes over and throws her arms around him in a tight hug. The classroom erupts in shocked whispers. The bullies stare in disbelief. Without hesitation, Yotsuha beams and introduces Uichi as her childhood friend, the most precious and important person in her life, the one she admires most. The bullies exchange uneasy looks, unable to process what just happened. Noticing his torn books on the desk, Yotsuha smiles and offers to share her book with him. Other students call out, begging her to sit with them instead, but she happily ignores them and takes the seat beside Uichi. As she sits, her eyes drift to his hands. After a brief moment, she reaches out and gently holds his. Uichi freezes, blushing furiously. He mumbles an excuse about needing to focus on the lesson, but Yotsuha doesn't let go. Instead, she rests her head on his shoulder and smiles softly. The class watches in jealous silence. At lunchtime, the situation only gets worse. From the window, classmates glare at them as they sit together on a bench outside. To them, the sight is infuriating. Nearby, a group of bad boys sit around grumbling. One of them finally snaps, yelling at his friend for throwing Uichi's books into the washroom earlier, the prank that backfired and made Yotsuha sit with him. His friend only shrugs, saying he should confront Uichi himself if he's so angry. Watching from the window, another boy seethes with jealousy. He doesn't just want Uichi humiliated, he wants Yotsuha for himself. His nails scrape against the glass, the sharp sound echoing his growing rage. After school, Yotsuha walks home with Uichi, twirling and dancing happily. Her joy overflows after spending the day with him. Uichi watches, still confused by her boundless energy. Suddenly, she spins around and catches him staring, making him flustered. With a teasing smile, she tells him he's cute. Embarrassed, he tries to deny it, but Yotsuha blushes and grabs the edge of his coat, insisting that to her, he's the cutest person in the whole world. As they part ways, she waves goodbye with a bright smile. Uichi opens the door to his house, still smiling faintly until he freezes in shock. His mother stands there, her usual cold presence softened by a strange, forced smile. In a calm voice, she says she bought his favorite dinner, something he liked. Then, almost complaining, she mentions how hard it was to go to the supermarket alone. Uichi quickly apologizes, still trying to process her unusual behavior. As he goes to his room, confusion swirls in his mind. His mother has never done anything like, so why now? That morning, before school, she had found a half-burned photograph. Every face in it was burned away except Uichi's. Staring at his image, she had clenched her fists in frustration. The thought of being left alone terrified her. Now, sitting at the dinner table, Uichi feels uneasy. When his mother suddenly calls his name, a chill runs down his spine. With a piercing gaze, she calmly asks if he's struggling at school, if he feels stressed, anxious, or troubled. She assures him that if anything's wrong, he'll be treated soon. For a moment, memories flash through his mind. The cruel messages scratched onto his desk, his mother's violent outbursts, the horrifying sight of her cutting her own hand. But when he sees her expression now, he realizes something. No matter how hard things are for him, her pain is even deeper. So, suppressing everything, he just shakes his head and says he's fine. Thinking of Yotsuha's bright face, he tells his mother about his day. When he mentions how much better he feels around her, his mother's expression turns sad and distant. Later, after studying, Uichi lies in bed feeling strangely motivated, all because Yotsuha exists. But as he closes his eyes, dark thoughts creep in. Voices whisper that he's hated, that he should just disappear. He tries to hold on to thoughts of Yotsuha, but the negativity grows louder, screaming at him to end it all. Desperate, he shouts into his blanket, until his phone buzzes. It's a message from Yotsuha. She wants to call. With tears in his eyes, he answers. Yotsuha, smiling brightly, says she's too happy to sleep and wants to keep talking until she dozes off. She laughs, saying his voice helps her relax. For the first time, Uichi feels calm. They chat softly until he falls asleep, phone still beside him. Once she hears his quiet breathing, Yotsuha whispers, "Sweet dreams," and ends the call, softly confessing her love before closing her eyes. Darkness surrounds her. In her dream, morning comes and Uichi appears. Her face lights up, until suddenly she starts crying. She begs him not to leave, but he keeps walking toward a twisted rope hanging from the ceiling. She screams for him to stop, but he doesn't. He loops the rope around his neck, and before she can reach him, he's hanging in the air, lifeless. Yotsuha jolts awake with a terrified scream, shaking violently. Gasping for air, she clutches her chest, crying and apologizing over and over in panic. The next day, as they walk to school hand in hand, Yotsuha excitedly tells Uichi that she made him an even tastier bento today. Happily squeezing his hand, she looks up at him with a bright smile. Uichi watches her blushing face in silence. Her affectionate nature, always touching, hugging, or holding his hand, reminds him of their childhood. She had always been like this, clinging to him wherever they went. When they reach the old park where they used to play, Yotsuha runs ahead in excitement. But just as she reaches the entrance, she trips and starts to fall. Instinctively, Uichi catches her from behind, holding her steady. For a moment, Yotsuha freezes. Her expression shifts. Surprise, then a deep blush, then something almost like anger. Worried, Uichi quickly apologizes for touching her so suddenly, but with teary eyes, Yotsuha shakes her head. Instead of being upset, she quietly says she's happy. No one had ever hugged her before. Her heart races from the unexpected embrace. She tries to calm herself, but can't stop trembling. Watching her flustered face, Uichi can't help smiling a little, maybe for the first time in a long while. When he apologizes again, she just smiles and thanks him warmly. As a token of gratitude, she hugs him back. Later, they walk through the park hand in hand. For the first time, Uichi feels a quiet, sincere wish that they could always stay like this.
Hey guys, sorry for mid-editing, but I noticed a lot of you are watching my videos without subscribing. Our subscribe ratio is literally close to 0. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Thanks. Now, back to the recap.
The next morning, Uichi wakes up to the chirping of birds. He feels lighter and more refreshed than ever before. Just then, a message from Yotsuha pops up. She wants to walk to school together again. The thought fills him with happiness. Jumping out of bed, he rushes to the window and slides the curtain open, only to find Yotsuha already standing outside, fully dressed and waiting for him. But something feels off. Her face looks tense and sad. Concern fills him immediately. He gets ready quickly, grabs his bag, and runs out the door. The moment he steps outside, Yotsuha greets him with a bright smile. Her sadness is gone, replaced by cheerful energy. She hugs him tightly and shows off the breakfast she made for him, insisting he eat it on the way. Uichi thanks her but can't shake off his worry. Gently, he asks if she's okay. For a brief moment, her face stiffens. Then she quickly puts on her usual smile and waves it off, saying it's nothing. She cheerfully insists that making breakfast for him made her happy. Uichi hesitates, but convinces himself he must have imagined her sadness. They continue walking and chatting as usual until they reach the train station. The moment Uichi steps onto the platform, his face changes, his muscles tense, and his eyes dart around. Relief only comes when he sees that the usual troublemaker isn't there, just his two subordinates, busy with their phones. Seeing him relax, Yotsuha watches him with a gentle, blushing smile. After leaving the train, they walk happily toward school. Then a voice calls out to them. Startled, they turn around to see a boy approaching with a bright smile, waving enthusiastically. Uichi hesitates, confused by the sudden greeting. Yotsuha's reaction, however, is stronger. She tightens her grip on her bag, her cheerful expression flickering into irritation for just a moment. The boy keeps talking, completely unaware of the tension. Then, blushing slightly, he looks directly at Yotsuha and says he hasn't seen her since elementary school. Instead of being cold, she laughs lightly and tilts her head, pretending not to recognize him. "Oh? And you are?" she asks politely. The boy looks disappointed, but quickly introduces himself. Yamato, her old friend from elementary school. When Yotsuha hears his name, her expression briefly changes, as if she remembers him. Then, forcing a cheerful smile, she says, "Oh right, Yamato, of course. Let's go to school together. You're a true friend." Even as she smiles, there's tension behind her eyes. Yamato grins, clearly happy to see her again. He glances at Uichi and says, "Wow, you're lucky, man. Your childhood friend transferred here, huh?" Then, turning away, his expression briefly shifts, cold and unreadable, before he faces them again with a fake smile. He adds, "You know, Uichi, I remember how you used to get bullied. I always felt bad I couldn't help. I was too busy with the student council." Caught off guard, Uichi looks down, unsure how to respond. Then, smiling politely, he waves it off. "It's fine. Thanks for at least thinking about me," he says sincerely. Still pretending, Yamato chuckles and scratches his head, pretending to be embarrassed. He reaches out to pat Uichi's shoulder, but before he can touch him, Yotsuha grabs his wrist, her face suddenly cold. Both boys freeze in surprise. Yotsuha quickly realizes how it looks, forcing a nervous laugh. "Ah, sorry, there was a bug on Uichi's hand. I was just trying to get it off," she says with fake cheerfulness. Yamato blinks, unsure what just happened. Yotsuha bows slightly, apologizing for the misunderstanding. Uichi, still shocked, smiles awkwardly, not knowing what to say. Yamato waves his hand with a laugh, saying he has to go. The student council is waiting. Yotsuha waves back with a too bright smile, maintaining her cheerful act until he leaves. As soon as he's gone, Uichi glances at her worriedly. She simply smiles and says softly, "I'm fine." Meanwhile, somewhere else in the school, Yamato rushes into the restroom. His body is trembling. He locks himself in a stall, breathing heavily. Clutching the hand Yotsuha had touched, he presses it to his lips, whispering her name with wild, desperate affection. Tears stream down his face as he stares at his phone wallpaper, a childhood photo of Yotsuha. Blushing, he mutters to himself, convinced that fate has brought them together again. Back when she moved away, he'd always believed they would meet someday. Now, seeing her again, he takes it as a sign, proof that she came back just for him. Admiring Yotsuha's beauty, he convinces himself that her body grew beautifully just for him. Remembering the warmth of her hand, he shivers with longing and hugs himself tightly. But then the image of her happily holding Uichi's hand flashes in his mind. His smile fades, darkness clouds his expression. His thoughts race back to childhood, to those days when Yotsuha always ended up playing with Uichi instead of him, sometimes by accident, sometimes by choice. Even back then, jealousy had burned inside him. He remembers crushing an insect under a rock and wishing Uichi would vanish just as easily, erased from Yotsuha's life forever. Yet despite all that hate, Uichi had always smiled at him kindly, inviting him to play. Even as they played together, Yamato secretly plotted how to get rid of him. His mind spirals deeper into those memories, to middle school. Back then, when bullies picked on Yamato, it was Uichi who had stepped in to protect him, trembling with fear but still trying to help. But instead of backing off, the bullies turned on Uichi, beating him until he became their next target. The bullying grew worse, cruel enough to push Uichi to the edge. He nearly took his own life. Watching him suffer in that darkness, Yamato had felt no pity, only excitement. He wanted Uichi to break, to disappear, to finally give up. But no matter how much pain he faced, Uichi refused to collapse. He kept reading motivational quotes, forcing himself to survive. That stubbornness made Yamato furious, so he came up with something worse. He began writing cruel messages on Uichi's desk, hateful, demoralizing words meant to destroy him inside. When new students started to notice and show concern for Uichi, Yamato acted quickly. He made a fake account using Uichi's name to spread rumors and lies. He even filled Uichi's locker with garbage, watching with twisted satisfaction as Uichi's anxiety and sadness deepened. The more broken Uichi looked, the more Yamato felt triumphant, because before Yotsuha returned, Yamato had one goal: to make sure Uichi never lived to see that day. His fists tighten, his knuckles turning white. He slams his hand against the restroom door, breathing heavily. Memories of Uichi and Yotsuha together, smiling, holding hands, scratch at his mind like sharp blades. Trying to calm down, he splashes water on his face and steps out. His sudden return startles the student council members, who rush over, asking why he missed the meeting. Keeping his calm, Yamato puts on a composed smile and gives an excuse, pretending everything's fine. As he speaks with them, his eyes drift toward the hallway, where Yotsuha and Uichi walk together. His gaze lingers on their joined hands. His jaw tightens before he quickly hides it with a polite smile. He greets them cheerfully, pretending nothing's wrong. As they walk past, some of his friends whisper, laughing about how well Yotsuha and Uichi suit each other. Yamato's smile stiffens, his fingers curling in frustration. Yotsuha feels his eyes on her. Her grip tightens around her bag, but she stays calm. She's not here to be emotional. She has a goal, and she won't let anything distract her from it. In the classroom, Yotsuha blushes as she looks at Uichi's desk. She's a little disappointed. His books aren't ruined today, which means she can't share hers again. Uichi chuckles softly, amused by her small pout. Around them, jealous eyes watch closely. Suddenly, Yotsuha hugs him. Realizing she might be distracting him, she quickly pulls away, embarrassed. But when he reassures her with a gentle smile, she hugs him again, whispering softly that she loves him. Then her eyes fall on something. Cruel words scratched onto Uichi's desk. Hypocrite, and other insults. Her expression hardens. Without a word, she stands up and says she forgot a book, then leaves the room. On her way out, a student hands her a file. A student council report meant for Yamato. She approaches him in the hallway, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, you're really on the student council?" she says with fake admiration. "And your handwriting's so neat." Yamato, flustered, proudly admits that he wrote it himself. But Yotsuha points to a word. "Oh, you spelled hypocrite wrong, the same way it was written on Uichi's desk." Yamato freezes. For a second, panic flashes across his face. Then he quickly laughs it off, pretending it's just a coincidence. Yotsuha's fists clench as she silently hands him the file. Inside, she's furious. She can't forgive the person who hurt Uichi. Yamato forces a calm smile, but his thoughts twist further. The fact that she recognizes handwriting feels like proof of destiny to him, as if she understands him more deeply than anyone else. The thought makes him tremble with excitement. Suddenly, he grabs her arm. Yotsuha tenses, frustration flashing in her eyes. Yamato grins, assuming her earlier excuse about the bug was just a lie, that she had touched him on purpose. Controlling her anger, Yotsuha pushes him away gently, keeping her voice calm. "I'm just glad you didn't write on Uichi's desk," she says coldly, and walks off. As soon as she turns the corner, her fake smile fades. Her eyes narrow, filled with anger she can barely contain. When she returns to the classroom, she sits beside Uichi with a bright smile. "Found my book," she says lightly, hiding her shaken mood. The bell rings for class. She lowers her head behind her book, pretending to read, but her mind keeps racing. She needs to find a way to make Yamato admit his guilt. Later, when the bell rings for PE, Uichi stands outside the boys' changing room, disappointed that he'll be away from Yotsuha. To his surprise, she suddenly hugs him tightly, sniffling. When he gently moves her back, she looks up at him with teary eyes and flushed cheeks. "Even if the world disappears," she says softly, "my love for you won't change." Uichi is speechless. Before he can respond, classmates walk by, heading to the changing room. With one last emotional wave, Yotsuha sends him off, her heart pounding. Inside, Uichi starts to change clothes, still thinking about her. Meanwhile, Yamato stands nearby, secretly checking his phone. Messages praising his schemes flash across the screen. He walks over to Uichi, acting cheerful. "Hey man," he says casually. Uichi, though surprised, thanks him for coming to talk, even though he knows Yamato's friends disapprove of him. Then Yamato starts planting seeds. "So, Yotsuha sat with you on her first day, huh? People are starting to talk. You know how students are. They might think she's weird now, hanging out with you." Uichi frowns in confusion, already starting to worry. Yamato keeps going, pretending to care. "I'm just saying it's tough for her. She's in PE right now, all alone. Maybe she's already being isolated because of you." The words sink deep into Uichi's fragile mind. His chest tightens with anxiety. Yamato folds his hands calmly and sighs. "Look, I only care about Yotsuha's happiness. Maybe it's better if you stay away from her for a while." Uichi says nothing. Meanwhile, in the corridor, Yotsuha stands awkwardly in her gym uniform, looking like a fish out of water, without Uichi by her side. The girls from her class open the changing room door, squealing over Satsuki's cool and elegant presence. Their excited chatter suddenly stops when they notice Yotsuha standing alone. Most of them decide to ignore her, pretending not to see. But Satsuki, being kind as always, walks up with gentle concern. She offers Yotsuha a spare set of gym clothes. Yotsuha's face brightens immediately, accepting the offer with a grateful smile. Then she quickly adds that she's skipping gym class today because she isn't feeling well. Satsuki stays calm and polite, offering to take her to the nurse's office if she needs help. Watching from the side, Satsuki's friends quietly admire her kindness and composure. When Satsuki rejoins them, her friends whisper in surprise that she actually talked to Yotsuha, the new transfer student who's always with Uichi, and has already gained a strange reputation. But Satsuki simply smiles and says she was just helping someone who needed it. I don't care about what others say, she adds calmly. Her group nods, impressed again by her independence and cool attitude. Once she's sure the other girls are busy playing, Yotsuha's expression changes. The cheerful smile disappears, replaced by a cold, focused look. She deliberately drops her wallet in the gym to create an excuse, then quietly slips into the storage room. With a pair of pliers in hand, she begins tampering with the lock, her movements careful, deliberate, and silent. After gym class ends, Yotsuha meets Uichi and immediately wraps him in a tight hug, overflowing with emotion. She's happy to see him again, but sighs sadly that she couldn't watch him during class. Excitedly, she shows him her lunchbox and asks if they can eat together, but Uichi looks distant and uneasy, his heart weighed down by Yamato's manipulative words. When he awkwardly suggests they should eat separately, Yotsuha's eyes widen in shock. Seeing his sad, intense face, she forces a smile and says softly, "I made this for you. I really wanted to eat together." Her gentle words melt his hesitation, and he reluctantly agrees. They sit down together, but as they eat, Uichi barely touches his food. His guilt keeps eating away at him. Yamato's voice echoes in his mind, the warning that Yotsuha might end up alone because of him. Yotsuha, proud of the cute octopus-shaped sausages she made, shows them to him excitedly, but his lack of reaction makes her worry. He seems lost in thought, almost broken, as if the world is closing in on him. To cheer him up, she suddenly pulls out a small group of octopus-shaped food figures and places them in front of him. "Look," she says playfully, "they're just like us. Even if one feels lonely, the others stay together." Her words hit him hard, as if she can read his thoughts. Then she jumps up, full of energy, and declares loudly, "I'll help you make lots of friends." She tells him that she doesn't have many friends yet either, since she's a transfer student, but she's sure they'll both make some soon. "You'll be my first friend," she says brightly, "and I'll be yours." When she suggests he should try making friends too, he immediately shakes his head, nervous and tense. But Yotsuha stays calm and warm. "It's okay," she says softly. "Let's just eat first. We'll think about friends later." Finally, Uichi takes a bite. His eyes widen. The food is actually delicious. Seeing his honest reaction, Yotsuha bursts into pure joy, her face glowing. "You liked it," she shouts happily. Watching them from a distance, Satsuki's friends whisper curiously, wondering what Yotsuha and Uichi are talking about. Satsuki, however, doesn't even look up. She calmly scrolls through her phone, eating her lunch without expression. Her friends exchange glances, amazed at how uninterested she seems in the couple. They admire her coolness and detachment. One girl even mentions how Satsuki once helped her carry a pile of documents without complaining, proof that behind her calm, elegant demeanor, she's also kind. But Satsuki stays silent, her elegant expression unchanged. Her mysterious calmness only makes the others admire her more. Suddenly, Satsuki's phone buzzes with a new notification. Without hesitation, she stands up. "My friend's calling me," she says casually, and walks off. Her group exchanges puzzled looks, curious about this friend she's never mentioned before. At the same time, Yotsuha excuses herself from Uichi, saying she forgot something in the gym. Without waiting for a reply, she hurries away. Outside, Satsuki scans the hall carefully, then breaks into a run. Holding her phone tightly, she searches for a quiet, hidden place, somewhere she won't be seen. Whatever she received clearly matters a lot. She finally slips into the storage room and locks the door behind her, but freezes when she sees the lock has already been broken. A flicker of unease crosses her face. There's no time to worry. She half closes the door and moves to a hidden corner, breathing unevenly. Sitting down, she quickly opens her phone, ready for whatever urgent message she came here for. As soon as the live stream starts, her whole demeanor changes. The usual calm, mature Satsuki is gone, replaced by a shy, emotional girl. Her eyes sparkle, her cheeks flush. She grips her phone tightly as the image of Teneman, the charming streamer, fills the screen. His elegant voice and gentle smile make her heart race. Tears well up as she listens to him speak. When Tenemin sighs and mentions how hard it must be for students to find time to watch on weekends, Satsuki instantly shakes her head, talking to the screen in a loud, flustered voice. No, no, it's not hard at all. I'll always watch you, she says, almost forgetting she's alone, gushing over him like a love-struck schoolgirl. Completely lost in her admiration, Satsuki doesn't notice the slow creak of the storage room door opening behind her. Yotsuha, her expression cold and calculating, silently peeks inside. Her sharp gaze locks onto Satsuki, observing every small movement. Satsuki, still watching her favorite streamer with pure devotion, is completely unaware that she's being watched. Disappointment flickers in Yotsuha's eyes. She's been tracking Satsuki for a reason, only to find her hiding here, obsessing over a streamer. Suspicion stirs within her. Finally, Satsuki senses something off. She spins around suddenly, yelping in shock and almost dropping her phone. Yotsuha stands calmly in the doorway, holding up a wallet. Startled, Satsuki scrambles for an excuse, her words tripping over each other. What are you doing here? She blurts out, her voice shaking. Yotsuha, perfectly composed, gives a gentle smile and explains, I forgot my wallet here. I heard a noise, so I peeked in to check. Realizing what's happening, Satsuki freezes. Her expression crumbles as tears well up in her eyes. She's terrified that her secret will be exposed. Yotsuha slowly steps closer and pats her back gently, speaking softly. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Her calm, comforting tone eases Satsuki's panic. Switching to a more playful voice, Yotsuha teases lightly, So, why are you watching your favorite show in hiding? Satsuki exhales shakily, hesitant at first but then deciding to open up. Blushing, she admits, I love anime and idols, but I can't tell anyone. My friends see me as calm and mature. If they found out I'm a total otaku, they'd be disappointed. Her voice trembles as she continues. It's not that I'm ashamed of it, I just don't want to break the image they have of me. They look up to me, and if they knew the real me, maybe they wouldn't anymore. The weight of her secret makes her shoulders tremble. She looks down, tears forming again. I feel like a fake, like I'm betraying myself every day. Yotsuha gently takes Satsuki's hands. Her touch is steady and warm, filled with quiet understanding. Encouraged, Satsuki continues, I don't want to hide who I am anymore, but I'm scared. Scared of losing them. Without hesitation, Yotsuha pulls her into a hug. The warmth of the embrace breaks through Satsuki's emotional walls. Finally feeling safe, she buries her face into Yotsuha's shoulder and cries, letting out all the tangled feelings she's been holding inside. Yotsuha strokes her hair softly and whispers, It's okay. I understand completely. When Satsuki finally calms down, she looks up with tearful curiosity. Yotsuha's cheeks are slightly flushed as she admits with a shy smile, Actually, I have an obsession too. Satsuki tilts her head in surprise, her sadness fading into curiosity. Then Yotsuha cheerfully adds, Mine is Uichi. Satsuki freezes. Yotsuha's tone becomes serious again. She brings up Uichi's bullying and asks quietly, How do you feel when people judge you for being around him? For a moment, sadness flickers in Satsuki's eyes. She looks down, remembering all the whispers and stares. But then she straightens her back, determination glowing in her eyes. I don't care what people think, she says firmly. I don't care if I lose friends or if everyone calls me weird. Staying by Uichi's side matters more than any of that. He's my savior. Yotsuha blinks, momentarily stunned, torn between admiration and confusion. Seeing Yotsuha's silence, Satsuki frowns slightly, but Yotsuha quickly smiles again. She decides to open up further. I was an orphan, she confesses softly. I grew up without a family. Most of my life I was alone and miserable. One day when I was sitting in a park crying, Uichi showed up. He was holding a football and asked me to play with him. Her voice trembles as she continues. That simple moment changed everything. Because of him, I made friends. I found joy again. I learned how to smile. She takes a deep breath and declares with renewed determination, To me, he's a hero. No matter what anyone says, I'll stay by his side. Satsuki listens quietly, her eyes filled with emotion. Moved by Yotsuha's honesty and strength, she smiles softly. You're amazing, she says. If you can be that brave, then I should be too. I'll keep loving my idol. Tenemin, no matter what anyone thinks. Yotsuha's eyes widen, then sparkle with happiness. That's the spirit. Feeling an unspoken bond, Satsuki extends her hand with a shy smile. I'm Satsuki, she says. Yotsuha beams with pure joy and shakes it warmly. Yotsuha! For the first time, both girls feel truly understood, two people from different worlds, now connected by honesty and courage. Back in the lunchroom, Uichi sits alone, lost in thought. Suddenly, the sound of laughter draws his attention. His eyes widen in surprise. Yotsuha and Satsuki are walking together, chatting and smiling like old friends. The entire room goes quiet. Satsuki's classmates stare in disbelief. When Satsuki reaches her table, she casually announces, This is Yotsuha. She's my friend. Her group is stunned. The same girl they once whispered about is now being welcomed by Satsuki herself. Then, to everyone's further shock, Satsuki invites Yotsuha to sit with them for lunch. But Yotsuha, noticing Uichi sitting alone, glances at Satsuki. Satsuki smiles knowingly. "Go on," she says gently. "Enjoy your lunch." Without hesitation, Yotsuha almost skips toward Uichi, wrapping her arms around him in a joyful hug. Satsuki watches, speechless. Seeing the pure happiness in Yotsuha's expression, she finally understands. Uichi isn't just some outcast. He's someone who once saved Yotsuha from her darkest days. As her friends whisper in confusion, Satsuki sits quietly, her eyes thoughtful. Then, in a low voice, she asks the question that's been on her mind for a long time. Why? Was Uichi bullied in the first place?